Qatar is one of the world's richest countries, if not the richest. Qatar owns one of the largest media conglomerates in the world that reaches millions of people. It is not necessary to like or to defend Israel. However, if there would be a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian Arab conflict, it will not be achieved by demonizing Israelis. It will not be achieved by manipulating or hiding the truth. It will not be achieved by inspiring people to hate, regardless of how one feels about Jews or Israelis or anyone else. A prominent media corporation shows a Hamas video about the attack against Israel, which glorifies the attack as a military victory. It does not show the truth about the attack. It does not show the many videos, including videos taken by Hamas themselves, of Hamas killing defenseless Israeli civilians. It does not show the strong evidence that the missile strike in a Gaza hospital parking lot, killing many innocent civilians, including children, was fired by an Islamic Jihad missile that fell short. It does not show the reasons why Israel is attacking Gaza, as though it is Israel, not Hamas, that started this bloody, completely senseless, and unnecessary war. Hundreds of millions of people do not know the truth. They only see what their medias want them to see. The border between Israel and Gaza was poorly guarded. At some point, there will have to be an accounting in Israel for this massive failure to properly protect the civilian communities near Gaza. Hamas and Islamic Jihad easily broke through the poorly guarded border. It is what they did next that matters. If they attacked military outposts and then retreated to Gaza with military prisoners, ensuring their humane treatment, that would have been a military victory. But they did not. Hamas and Islamic Jihad went into civilian communities and murdered entire families. They burned people alive in their homes. They shot unarmed civilians point-blank range. They raped women. They killed, kidnapped, and raped hundreds of defenseless civilians attending a music festival. They kidnapped hundreds of civilians, from babies to old women in their 90s, and brought them back to Gaza. They raped, wounded, murdered, tortured, beheaded, burned alive, kidnapped thousands of civilians for no other reason than that they are Jews. There are hundreds upon hundreds of witnesses and survivors of the atrocities. There are hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands, of witnesses to the aftermath of the bloodbath. They saw murdered babies, murdered families, murdered defenseless civilians of all ages, disabled and able-bodied. It has all been well documented. One reporter for Al Jazeera asserted that claims about beheadings by Hamas, including beheadings of babies, are Israeli and United States propaganda. The forensic evidence, the documentation, the people that saw for themselves the beheaded bodies, including that of babies, is enormous. Furthermore, the kidnapped, now in Gaza, including one-year-old babies, little children, young women held captive, and God only knows what is being done to them. Old women, defenseless men and women, did not go of their own volition to Gaza. A number of media outlets that are the only source of information for hundreds of millions of people will not show or conduct interviews with Israeli survivors of the Hamas and Islamic Jihad murder, rape, torture, and kidnappings of defenseless Israeli civilian populations. They only want to spin narratives that demonize Israelis. Demonizing a people leads to hate, violence, murder, and atrocities. A number of Hamas leaders live like kings in Qatar. Life is good in rich Qatar for Hamas leaders that led thousands of their underlings to kill, rape, torture, and kidnap in Israel, and then retreat to Gaza to hide behind the civilians of Gaza. Qatar does not mind bringing in millions of foreign workers from poor countries where many are terribly exploited. Are there any actual laborers from Gaza working in Qatar? Or are there only the well-fed, pampered Hamas officials who have never worked a day in their life and spend their time advocating for the murder of Jews? There will never be a light shown on Qatar, and if there is, it will be dim and brief. Qatar is more than happy to keep the world enraged against Israel. It keeps all eyes away from themselves. Demonizing Israel attracts audiences. Millions of people have been and still are being slaughtered in the killing fields of Yemen, Syria, Myanmar, Central African Republic, Darfur in the Sudan, Somalia, and elsewhere. All of these mass killing and atrocities are ignored, with little exceptions. If there is not a way to blame and demonize Israel or the Jew, few to no one cares. The widespread anti-Israel media helps keep it that way. The bridges that need to be built between Israelis and Palestinian Arabs will never happen as long as those that incite hate and demonizing have the upper hand. The only alternative to building bridges between people is war. The only alternative to getting people to see and treat each other as fellow human beings is war. The medias that demonize the people of Israel and want the small country destroyed are inflaming the conflict and contributing to the deaths of civilians on all sides. Why some of them are allowed to operate freely in Israel and spread their hate is inexcusable.